It was a beautiful Indian summer kind of a day. You know, the screen doors were open at both ends of the house, and the music was blaring. Don was on the golf course, and I'm cooking along. You know, all of a sudden it dawned on me, someone could come walking in here, and I'm here all by myself in this big house with all the doors open, defenseless. I thought, what if someone just came walking in through that door? And so I thought, well, if that should happen, and I happen to have on an apron that has 2 big pockets in the front, and I went over and got one of our handguns and put it in my apron pocket. I knew it wasn't gonna go off unless I touched it. By then I was educated. I knew how to use it, how to make it work, how not to make it work. But I'm thinking, okay, anybody walks in now and I'm sitting here in the kitchen, boom, I'm ready to go. And Don comes home from golfing and he sits in the chair, and I went into him and I said, I've got a new marketing idea for somebody.
Today, Susan Kriley feels just as much at home on the shooting range as she does in the kitchen. Both interests, as she'll tell you, represent 2 of the books that make up the library of her diverse personality. However, she wasn't always as familiar with a gun as she is with a rolling pin.
I was born in downtown Chicago and raised in the western suburbs. I was second oldest of 4 children. I lived there for 40 years, so I really enjoyed the winter. We did ice skating and sledding and snowballs and all kinds of winter things. Like I say, 4 kids in the house, there's never a dull moment. There are times when Mom would get sick and Dad would come and get me because I was the oldest. They'd say, you know, your mother's sick, she can't get up. Can you get up and make breakfast for the kids and get everybody off to school? And so I'd get up and make sure everybody was fed and do whatever. I just always liked to be in the kitchen. I also had the advantage of having an older brother. So of course those junior high, high school years, oh man, they were terrible on me. It was awful. But when those boys were at the house, I learned pretty quickly, 1, I could bake and cook and they would eat anything. That's how I learned. If something didn't turn out the way I thought or didn't look so pretty, whatever, didn't matter. They scarfed down everything.
Susan decided to take her love for baking and turn it into a career. She attended college at Eastern Illinois University and earned a Bachelor of Science in Home Economics. Eventually, her career led her back to the family business, Fannie Mae Candies.
Being the only female in the family business, they had no clue what to do with me. There was no program in place, and I spent, I don't know how many years in the factory, which, you know, your younger brother, 7-year-old younger brother is wearing a suit and tie and walking through the office and you're with your hands in the chocolate. I really hated it and regretted it when I was in the factory. But when I did end up and proceed to the office, I knew more about how the stuff was made and what we use and what they need and whatever than the people sitting in the office did. I was the only one of the executive level, theoretically, who knew what was going on in the kitchen.
With Susan dedicating so much of her time and energy towards her career, she didn't have much free time to devote to her personal life.
I had joined this executive dating service because you get to a certain age, you're gonna know everybody's married or having kids, et cetera, et cetera. Well, at the same time I had done that, Don had a friend of his join him up without him knowing.
Basically, when they set it up, I drew a circle. I said, within 25 minutes of this circle, you can surely find me a lot of people to date. Well, when I got Susan's name, I looked at the circle and I'm going, not only she's outside the circle, she's another hour and 15 minutes out of the circle.
They send me him and him me at the same time. And I can call him or he can call me or he can do nothing.
So finally one Friday night, I give her a call and we talked on the phone.
I mean, hours on the phone.
So we met, we ate, had a good time. I made one serious mistake though. Instead of giving her a kiss on the cheek, I gave her the handshake. Thank goodness I made a date for that Saturday night. We met now on August the 17th, went to San Diego in September, October we got engaged, and we got married in January.
He's over there smirking. That's how I met Don.
Don grew up hunting with his father and developed a passion for the shooting sports at a young age. When he met Susan, he wanted to share his favorite hobby with the love of his life. But at first, Susan wasn't all that interested.
Every so often he would say to me, oh, I'm gonna go down over there, do you wanna come? No, you go ahead. And
He says, do you really want to stay home on a beautiful day? I says, now you're gonna go with me, just one day.
he says, you just have to ride along, just ride along. Okay, fine. So we get all the way down there, he gets me loaded up, and I got my shells, and I got my shotgun, and I got my glasses, and I got my ear things, and so out we go.
I figured that day maybe she would make 3 or 4 stations at the most. So I just grabbed a bag of 20 gauge shells, and I didn't know what was in there. So we get past 4 stations, we go to 5th station. I keep thinking, man, I don't know, we're gonna run out of shells here. I hope she quits.
I'm digging around, I'm like, where's the rest of my shells? I said, I'm out of shells.
I said, honey, I'd be honest with you. I didn't think you was gonna make it past 3 or 4 stations.
I cannot believe you did not think I would finish.
Well, I didn't think so.
And now every time we come, we bring plenty. 2 more?
Yeah, 2 more.
So I can shoot a lot.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Pull. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
There you go.
He's taught me everything that I've learned how to do, and he's a very good teacher, and he's very patient. And when I do well, he gets so excited, and that makes me happy to see that he's so excited.
And she's learning. She gets excited about it. She turns around with a big smile on her face. My gosh, did you see that? Did you see that?
With Susan's newfound love on the clays course, Don hoped he could talk her into one of his other loves, hunting. Susan had never been hunting when she decided to tag along with Don on an African adventure.
I agreed to go, knowing that the other women weren't hunters either. And I'm like, if I got my Kindle loaded, I'm good anywhere in the world. Well, we had 4 women that weren't hunters. And so, we went places and did other things. One day we went looking at animals, and one day we went to the elephant park. You get to the end of the week, and the poor little 18-year-old guy who's in charge of entertaining the women was kind of running out of ideas. And I think he was kind of egged on by one of the other women in the group. I think you can get Susan to shoot. I think you can get Susan to shoot. She shoots sporting clays. So, little bitty 18-year-old John, he comes up to me. Have you ever shot a rifle before? No. Do you want to learn? I'm like, be a good sport. Sure, I'll try. So we get up on the top of the truck, and he shows me how to hold it and how to do it. He says, you want to go hunting? Okay, fine. Well, what do you want to look for? Well, one of the days that we were entertained, they'd taken us downtown to Stellenbosch to shopping. And all the shops, beautiful leather goods, beautiful ostrich goods. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. So off we went in the truck, looking for an ostrich. And so we're just driving around, looking. Finally, I said, there he is right there. Pulled the trigger, and down he went. My little PH was, you got it, you got it. He was all excited. He says, here in South Africa, there's a custom. He says, when any person has their first kill, they eat the raw liver and they smear the blood all over your face as a sign of you've become a warrior, and you wear it all day until you go to bed that night. I said, well, you can put the blood on my face thing, but I'm not eating anything raw from that. But you can smear the stuff on my face. Well, usually when the guys were out hunting, they would call in. Well, because this was a surprise, Jono did not call it in. And so we pull up, and I knew that Don did not know. So I kind of stayed to the back of the room.
And I can remember absolutely walking in the room. I didn't see her up first, and I looked back over my other shoulder, and there she stood. And the light hit her on the left side of her face.
And he looks at me like,
oh my gosh, what did she do? She got lipstick, ketchup? So I kept going like this, and she smiled. And man, when she stepped out, this thing chilled up my spine. You can see the blood on her face. And I couldn't believe what she did. I mean, it was just fantastic. I went over there and gave her a big hug. And I said, man, what did you do? She says, you won't believe it. I shot an ostrich. And I said, you shot an ostrich? I said, well, you got your own boots now, don't you? She just smiled, and she says, you better believe it.
He was grinning from ear to ear. It was so cute. He's so proud of me. I mean, to me, that makes it all worth it.
She says, I'm a hunter now, big-time hunter.
I think it's just added a whole new dimension, something that's part of me now that wasn't a part before. Of cooking and cleaning and family and shooting and whatever. But it's like it's added another book in the library that makes up who I am. Okay, hon, come on over and sit.
Basically, what really changed, she was a little timid about things. Once she did that, all of a sudden she went being on a little bit on the timid side to more aggressive side. She became more open. And it was just like kind of walking over, maybe turning on a dim light and flipping the switch almost bright. It just, her personality absolutely changed.
When Susan puts her mind to something, there is no telling what she can accomplish. To those that know her, It came as no surprise when she was able to pass her concealed carry class with flying colors.
For North Carolina state law, you have to shoot 10 shots at 5 yards, 10 at 7 yards, and 10 at 10 yards. And Don had just gone along just because I was the only girl, and I wouldn't have felt as confident being the girl in the class without Don behind me. But Don didn't say anything to me the whole time because he's not, you're not supposed to, it's not allowed. So I bring my targets, he says, okay, students, go get your targets. So I went and got my target and I brought it behind, and the teacher looks at me and says, how do you think you did? I had nothing to compare to. So I said, I don't know, how do you think I did? Meanwhile, I can kind of hear Don going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He said, how many do you think you got? And then I started, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I said, I don't know, a lot. I said, how many do I, then I kind of caught on. I said, how many do I need? He says, according to North Carolina state law, in order to get your concealed permit, you have to fire 30 and you have to have at least 18 on the target. Well, then I'm really 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, by then Don had already counted, and he says, if you count this one that's half on the edge, that's 29. I went, 29 out of 30, really? I was just amazed, and the teacher, Bruce looks at me, and he says, congratulations, you passed. Sign here, sign here, sign here. Boom, and done. This past year, I was invited to join the executive committee of the Women's Leadership Forum, and Susan LaPierre tells the story. She says, we started this like 5, 6 years ago in somebody's dining room. There was 12 women, 12. And in 5, 6 years, we're maxed out at 500 women.
I do believe with Susan and other women get involved, it will bring a younger generation in. That's the future of the NRA. There's no question about it.
Through shooting, hunting, and her involvement with the Women's Leadership Forum Executive Committee, Susan has opened her eyes to a new chapter in her life, one full of confidence and a take-charge attitude.
It added a whole nother perspective of what I think and how I think, because I didn't think that I would ever be shooting and hunting and taking concealed permit classes. And never, 5 years ago, if anybody had asked me, I'm like, are you kidding? No, he's the hunter. I would never have. But it makes me think about things differently. And if you want to go out and shoot, oh yeah, I can go. And you want to go out and hunt, oh yeah, I can go. And whereas before I would have said, no, you go ahead.
I love it. I mean, instead of going out by yourself, you can take somebody with you that's the love of your life, and been around there and see her shoot and be excited. I tell you, the old saying, she took the bull by the horns and ran with it.